Looks like we got the Facebook groups in here already, as well as everything else. All right. Welcome into another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am your host today, Erick Trickel. Joining me is Dylan Von Arx, as Nick is out working on his move. Currently is without internet, and it'd be kind of hard to do a live show without internet, right? But it's going to be a fun time talking with Dylan about the Broncos and Bo Nix and what they need to do to right the ship or correct the course or whatever cliche you want to say for a team that is 1-2 and turning things around. But before we get into that, Dylan, how are you doing this fine Wednesday morning?
Doing fantastic, and personal life wise. In terms of the Broncos, pretty bummed out. A second heartbreaker in 2 weeks. Not something you really like, especially as a fan. Obviously, we're analysts here, but we are still very deeply fans. Whether we pick them to lose in predictions, we're always rooting for them to win on game day. So pretty rough game all around for the Broncos last week.
Yeah, and it was just one of those games where you had ample opportunity to put the game away, just like against the Colts, and you failed to do so on your offense. Your defense failed to get a stop when needed. Penalties. Basically, another game where everything that could go wrong to close out the game went wrong to close out the game. And that's kind of what makes these last-second field goal losses even more heartbreaking. Like, it is one thing if you go out and you lose by a last-second field goal where they're just going out there and they're just making great plays. It's worse when you're going out there shooting yourself in the foot, helping them go out there and close the game and get that last second field goal. But before we get into the conversation, we do have some people to say hello to in the chat. We have Jermaine saying, good morning, guys. And we have Michael Wakila coming in dropping 5 Mile High Huddle memberships. So if you guys are in here in the live show and were gifted a membership from Michael, go ahead and give him a shout out, give him a thanks. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it, Michael, constantly coming in and giving, super chats like the one you dropped last night. Still, breath is taken away for that one, and that was so generous of you. And then you come in this morning dropping 5 Mile High membership gifted. Cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. And he's saying, good morning, Erick and Dylan on the Broncos for breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Yeah, hope you are having a wonderful morning, Michael. Chase Wallner saying, morning, guys. Have a great show. Thank you, Chase. Hope you are having another one. And speaking of Michael, he says, with a $5 super chat, the Broncos offense and defense need to be disciplined and cut out the penalties. Yeah, this is one of the issues for them, and it's hard to win games when you're getting penalized as much as they are. I can't remember the exact count it was against the Colts, but it was a pretty bad one, and it's not always just the number of penalties, but it's the yardage that's given up as well. And a lot of the penalties against the Chargers were stupid penalties. Two of the ones on Talanoa Hufanga, the body slam, the personal foul, unnecessary roughness for that was just stupid. And his comments after the game really rubbed me the wrong way. Well, I don't know what I did wrong. You body slammed the dude. Like, come on now. And then earlier in the game, he's coming downhill and gets called for defensive pass interference because for no reason, as he's falling to the ground, he decides to reach out and trip Ladd McConkey, which I guess I shouldn't say no reason. It does make some sense that he did that because in a situation like that, had McConkey passed the ball, it's probably a big gain, probably more than 15 yards. Could have possibly been a touchdown. I can't remember from the all 22. I think there was one defender McConkey would have had to beat for a touchdown. So you just take the penalty and, give up less yardage that way, but you still got to be a little bit smarter about it. And, there was a way that you could defend that without having to trip them. So just stupid penalties for it. And it is just lack of discipline from these guys. Talanoa Hufanga has always been a little bit on the reckless side of things. And that is one thing that you just got to watch it. You can't play like that and expect to, win games consistently.
Exactly. And it's a shame that it happened to Talanoa Hufanga, especially man, you can't even do that kind of stuff before the whistle, like body slam people like your prime Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
And it's just not a good look. And then the tripping thing too, honestly, sometimes guys, you just have a reflex, you reach out, trip them. It happens. But you got to clean that stuff up on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Adam Troutman, I'm looking at you. Terrible game. Blew up so many plays. that could have been huge gains for the Broncos. And hell, maybe this game even looks a little different. But yes, got to clean up the penalties and be more disciplined team. Something you don't really want to see from a Sean Payton team.
Yeah, and what stinks with, at least with Adam Trotman, his play has been bad enough to where it's like, oh, come on now. Hufanga's been playing great football outside of these penalties, like, and it just kind of holds him back a little bit. We have Conga Hydra coming in saying, going from Ravens Lions to Bengals Broncos Monday Night Football game. Yeah, I can't imagine the NFL is like super happy about the circumstances with this, because they were expecting this to be a big game, especially after last year's game, and now it's not looking so good. So injuries happen, but hey, it is a bit rough. Denver Luke coming in saying, howdy y'all. Howdy to you, Denver Luke, and that what is it? Machop in your profile picture. I had to take a second and remember who it is. It's hard to see for us, but I was able to make it out. I don't need glasses after all. Mike Thompson saying, hey, friends. Jay Bruce saying, go Broncos. And Mike Thompson also coming in. Live might have scored, had not. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like sometimes penalties are, the lesser of two evils here. It's like Garrett Bowles with some of the holds that he's been called for his career. They were necessary to keep the quarterback from getting absolutely demolished. And sometimes coaches do teach you, it's like, it is better to take a penalty than get your quarterback hit or to give up a big play on the defense. But my thing with the offensive pass or defensive pass interference on Hufanga was he didn't need to go to the ground and trip him like he did. He could have defended that better to where that wasn't necessary and still potentially kept, and possibly kept the big play from happening. Can't say for sure because that's not what happened. He ended up tripping him, so we can't say, oh, had he done it better, for sure wouldn't have happened. But you don't want to do that. And he also says you can argue that Trotman penalties cost them for 2 games. I don't think you can. I mean, some of them have definitely been on big impact plays, but I don't know if they were big impactful enough play or big enough plays that would have given Denver the win. They definitely could have helped. But it's a counterfactual to say that they would have, but does not change the fact that Troutman has been awful. I have been all aboard the anti-Troutman train for years, ever since he came to Denver. He's never, he was hyped up as this great blocker. It's never been realized in Denver. And I did a film piece on him for this game, and there was the run there at the start that ended up going nowhere by RJ Harvey, where Troutman lost the rep, got called for holding, and still allowed his defender to make the tackle. A triple whammy play. And then later on, Denver had what was a beautiful downfield screen setup where Troutman, and I can't remember what receiver it was, were working a block or set up to block down field, and Harvey came on a quick underneath route, caught the ball, and there was a ton of space for it. But Troutman's positioning, his feet stop, allowing the defender to get that path inside, and he completely took out the ability for Harvey to get to the edge and turn it into a foot race. And it's just one of those things, like, you got to watch the positioning, and that is a consistent issue with Troutman, positioning with his blocks, and then dead feet. Time and time again, he sets his feet and they stop moving, and then he's reaching and lunging in his blocks, and it just makes it so easy to win. The third play I covered in that was the Derwin James sack, where same thing happened, dead feet, and Derwin James was able to use that to his advantage and get the sack.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known any better about hearing about how he's a good blocker. I mean, he's just not doing his job in the run game, non-existent in the pass game, as are most of the tight ends. Even when Evan Ingram was in, wasn't getting very many touches, despite being the joker, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, need to do better than Troutman, but kind of stuck with him for now.
Denver Luke saying, nice spot. I've had that as my profile for so long. At this point, I'm going to keep it. Haha, the 2016 OG Pokemon Go days. Yeah, I mean, to highlight how big of a nerd I am, I still play Pokemon Go. I still play it with my wife and my kid, and they enjoy it. And I mean, it's living where I live. It's situational. We only play from about April to, right about this time of year. We don't go out and do it when it's cold out and he comes in with a $1.99 super chat with a super sticker. Unfortunately, we cannot see what the super sticker is, but we appreciate you, Denver Luke, and thank you for joining us. Jay Brew, the number of 3-and-outs is killing the defense at the end of the games. It is definitely. And then Casa Bonito coming in from Michael. Bonito has been a bright spot. I was expecting him to struggle against Joe Alt and the Chargers offensive line. He killed it. Like, I've had my questions about him, but this is a game that really cemented him as a legit pass rusher. I think when he was going against a great offensive tackle, granted only second year, but he was going against a great offensive tackle and he won a good amount of reps. It's not like the Buccaneers game last year where he was going against Tristan Wirfs, where he won a few times, but not consistently enough to where it erased those issues when he's about going against, top tier tackle talent. But he is a legit pass rusher. He's never going to be that guy as a run defender. He's never going to be more than a opportunist as a run defender, taking advantage of his explosiveness on pull blocks or on going unblocked against the run. That's just not his game. That's not what he's going to be. But if he can continue being as legit of a pass rusher as he has, then that is great. And Mike Thompson says, do you have a grade for Benito last game? Yeah. So when I do my grades, not every player gets graded, but not every player gets put out into my grading article. It's only the 3 highest, 3 lowest, and then 2 other on each side of the ball, and as well as an MVP. But Nick Benito was just not quite in that range. He ended up with the 64.4 grade, which was a really good one. There was a couple issues against the run that kept it from being a little bit higher. And I believe that was like the 5th or 6th highest on the defense. I can't remember exactly for sure. I mean, I could look through and calculate it, but it was a good game, and it was carried by what he did as a pass rusher. But getting into how Bo Nix and the Broncos can, right the course, correct the ship, whatever cliche you want to use against the Bengals, we're going to start in on Bo Nix a little bit, which was a topic of conversation last night that I had with Carl, which if you guys haven't done so, go back and listen to that. And to get this started, to be clear, we are not saying everything is Bo Nix's fault. We are not saying that Bo Nix stinks, but I think it is very fair to say, and I think it is undisputable, that Bo Nix has been a bottom 10 quarterback to start the season through 3 games. And this Broncos team will only go as far as Bo Nix will take them, as in when it matters, they need Bo Nix to step up and carry them to the win, and that was needed against the Chargers. And he failed to do that. Again, not all his fault, but quarterback is the most important position, so you do put a lot on them. So there are a handful of things that are very clearly wrong with Bo Nix right now that need to be corrected. One of them, and it's something that Nick's talked about a lot, his inability to operate a true drop back passing game. This has led to 16.3% of the offensive plays being screens. That is not good. That is tied for the 3rd highest. And when you can't operate a true drop back passing game, that makes things rough. And talking about him being a bottom 10 quarterback, that is true in almost all of the statistical categories that you look at. When you take those screens out, he is bottom 5. So the screenplays are definitely helping, giving him a boost. So they got to figure out something to do to get him going and figure out a way to, even if it's not truly operating a drop back passing game, some way to kind of gimmick it, because it is leaving yards on the field. It is leaving plays on the field, because one of the big things with a true drop back passing game is it's not just 1-2 check down read. And that's what Bo Nix has been. It's I'm reading a full field. I'm finding the opportunities when they're there. And if none of them are there, then I'm taking the check down. Not if 1 or 2 are there, then check down or scramble. And the pressure has not been bad enough to excuse this play from Nix.
Absolutely, you're totally correct there. It's frustrating going back and watching the film, and you see Nix checking down. It's like, hey man, the pocket's clean enough for you to get off a throw downfield, and someone's coming up, and whether it was Sutton, Mims, Franklin, someone was starting to streak open, and he was just ready to take that check down. I'm not sure what that's all about. Obviously, there was a problem with pressure in college. He was one of the worst quarterbacks when it came to being pressured, and we've kind of seen that persist in the NFL. Which he didn't get pressured a whole lot last season, but with how bad the interior of this offensive line has been playing, the more pressure Bo Nix has gotten, the worse he's looked. Quite bad. I mean, it's just not a good look. Also, a thing of him not setting his feet. His mechanics are off. Something we saw very early last season. He mostly corrected it that second half of the season, but he's starting to fall back into that, and that's not what you want to see from a franchise quarterback who, in my mind, I think Bo Nix is a good quarterback, but he still needs to prove he is that guy. I'm not just going to hand him the reins in my mind.
Yeah, there's a reason why you, Nick, myself, and some others were on the cautiously optimistic side of things with Bo Nix after one season. We have seen it time and time again of quarterbacks go out, have a great rookie season, and then they tend to fall flat on their face and they don't take those next steps. Not saying that's going to be the case with Bo Nix. There's still ample opportunity, barring injury. He's going to get the rest of this season. Maybe they reevaluate after, but with him being Sean Payton's handpicked guy, I think he'll get into next season as well. I mean, if this continues next season, then possibly you can see him benched after, half season or so. But that's still, 14 games down the road, and more if they somehow manage to make the playoffs, if they do right this ship and make it. So that's a little bit down the road, but barring injury, Nick's is going to get the season, as he should. He should get this season. And as Nick said on Monday morning, those calling for a switch to Jarrett Stidham, they're just trolling. They got it. They need to be quiet. You got to roll with Bo Nix. I mean, he was the handpicked guy by your head coach. You have to figure out if he can bounce back, if he can step up, if he can start being that guy. But you mentioned him under pressure. And that is another big issue that I have with him. And that is a big issue that has been there going back to last year, where he was one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure. Much is the same this year. And I think that highlights that one of the biggest issues with Nix is that we're not seeing improvement on his issues from last year to this year when he had a full offseason, same coaching staff for the most part, same coaching staff that would impact him, same offensive scheme. There's no variables for him that would account for this, where in the offseason he had to focus on other stuff outside of just improving himself and improving his play. He had that. And he's the same in a lot of ways, and in a lot of other ways, the footwork and the placement, he's regressed a little bit. I mean, the footwork last year wasn't great. There were a lot of times where he wouldn't set his throw or set his feet and make the throw, and leading to some off placement throws, but it wasn't this bad. It wasn't where it feels like, I don't know for sure, haven't gone back and looked at it, where it feels like almost 50 to 60% of his passes, he's not setting his footwork. And you're seeing it even on some of those easier throws that Bo Nix excelled at last year, those curl routes. He's not placing it on target. You're seeing the guys having to reach out of where the catch radius should be. You're seeing it being put in a position where the defensive back has an easier chance to make a play on the ball. You're seeing these kind of issues, and it's like, what are you doing? Go in and watch the film. And I do have to put some crap on Sean Payton for this. There's only so much babying you can do for your hand-picked quarterback. And granted, I'm sure he's talked to him behind the scenes. I'm sure he's talked to him in a thing. But sometimes you got to do it publicly as well to send the proper message. And this was an issue I had with Sean Payton last year. I mean, it was a thing of, it was everybody else's fault but Bo. Everything wasn't perfect for Bo. It's like, well, part of your issue is Bo, and that's especially true after the Chargers game. He missed 3 deep shots. 2 of them were because he didn't set his feet. One of them, there was no excuse for it. So maybe take a minute after the game and say, Bo's having issues. He's not setting his feet, and that's leading to issues with his placement. It's not holding the offense back. That is something we have to go and correct. You don't want to do it to where, oh man, he may come off like you think he sucks, but there is a right way of doing things, and it's not happening with Sean Payton. You can't baby Bo Nix too much for too long, because the rest of the people in the locker room, they're going to see that, they're going to hear it, and it could potentially lead to some issues.
Absolutely. And you saw a lot of that, and this isn't a 1-for-1 comparison, obviously, but Russell Wilson in Seattle I mean, Pete Carroll kind of, blamed everyone else but Russell for a while, oh, my poor baby Russell. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit here. Not to the same extent yet. Um, but like you mentioned, you do need to kind of put that constructive criticism out there. And that's what it would be, is constructive criticism, not trashing your young quarterback. But hey, man,
Yeah.
the honeymoon phase is far over. Year
Yeah.
one was great. You got back to the playoffs, but time to really start laying into him a bit and light a fire under him.
Yeah, and as Clayton Heron says, he says he'll be fine. Give him time. This game is a perfect game for him to get back. And we are definitely going to get into that here in just a moment. But before we do, we got to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. So football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, sacks, and so much more.
That's right. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. So if you think you got a beat on Bo Nix's for any Broncos player stats, obviously, stats are going to be in week 2. Download Underdog and win some money.
Yeah, so many people have so much fun playing Underdog and winning money while watching football. That's a touchdown, you guys. Download the app today and sign up with promo code MHuddle to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks and win money.
Be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Sorry for the loop there, folks.
Yeah, it's all good. But getting on to the other part of Clayton Heron's comment, this is a perfect game for him to get back on track. So what needs to be done to get Bo Nix on track? Because as I said, this team will only go as far as he will take it. So you got to get him on track. And without Joe Burrow, this isn't going to be the game like it was last week. Jake Browning has been awful through his game and a half so far. This is a perfect time for Sean Payton to take a step back. Not that his play calling has been awful. His play calling against the Chargers was actually brilliant. So many great play calls to take advantage of their aggressive off coverage, and they just weren't going out there and executing, and not just Bo Nix, but everyone else. So what can they do to get Bo Nix on track and have that cover over? And we're going to cover that before we get to the other aspects of this team. The running game, the defense, they're all issues. They all need to be talked about as well. The biggest one is stop. I mean, he needs to get that true drop back passing game going, but can't force it, right? It's one of those things where if you force it and try to do it too much, it is going to be, it's just putting a little bit too much pressure on Nix. Mix it up a little bit. Go back to adding some of those moving pocket plays, those rollouts, those boots, things like that. You got to be a little bit smart with it because you don't want to do it too much, but go back to calling them. Just mix it up a little bit. We haven't seen a lot of that over the last 2 games, especially. It's been a lot of trying to force the true drop back passing game. The screen game, you still can use that, especially if you're not getting a run game going, because screen games are essentially an extension of the run game more than a passing play. So you still want to use those. You still want to mix them in if you're not getting the run game going. But if you do get a run game going, you got to stick with it. You got to keep pounding the rock. Even if you're not being successful, you still have to stick with the run game. You can't give it up. You can't make your team one-dimensional. And that is probably one of the biggest issues Sean Payton has with his play calling. You got to stick with the run game. You can't just immediately give up on it and then go to screens to make up for it. So there is a lot they can do to help out Bo Nix. But Bo Nix does have to take that step up himself. He was caught supposedly saying, this is lip reading, saying that he had so many chances against the Chargers, which, if that is what he's saying, that is 100% true. You can't miss on those opportunities. You can't miss on giving up on at least 14 points, because 2 of those were surefire touchdowns, and expect to win games. Denver lost by 3. Those 14 points, guess what? You're walking out with a win. You're sitting at 2-1. So he has to improve his play. He's got to calm down. He's got to they got to figure out a way, both externally and internally with Nix, inside himself, to get the pressure off of him. Because there's a lot of plays where it's like Bo Nix is trying to do too much, where he's trying to come out and prove that he is that guy, and he has to prove it. So he's just putting too much on himself, too much on his plate, too much on his shoulders to go out there and do it. And it's leading to misreads. It's leading to missed opportunities. It's leading to overthrows, poorly placed throws, not setting his footwork, not having proper arm angles. It's a lot. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, and essentially use this game to not start over, but take a step back and just go out there and start having fun playing football again.
Exactly. He just seems so unsettled most of the time. It's not even because of pressure from the defense. It seems like it's something up here, and he's really pressing is the word I've been hearing a lot thrown around, and that's kind of true. I mean, he's taking these checkdowns early because he's like, oh, I just need to get a completion here, or it's like, settle yourself, take a breath, and that's kind of how we were talking quite a bit the first handful of games in his rookie season. It's like, man, it looks like he's not calm, which, I mean, you don't expect anyone to be, just calm, cool, and collected the entire game, but man, he's just not. He's just losing his mechanics with something to do with the mental side of the game. And you see that when he's throwing some of these deep passes, or like you said, even some of his completions, you're like, man, he hits the guy in the hands or in the right spot, they can keep running with the ball instead of having to reach out for it and stop. You saw that with Troy Franklin, I believe, this last week on an incompletion where he kind of threw it behind him. And it's like, man, there's no reason for you to be pressing right now. Your offensive line hasn't been perfect. It's holding up better than most teams.
Yeah, and a lot of, analytics for offensive line, Denver's still at the top or at the top. They have multiple guys that are in top 5 at their position for pass block win rate. I believe Garrett Bowles is number 2, I think, or number 3. And Ben Powers is number 4, number 5. And you have Mike McGlinchey, who's just outside the top 10 at, I believe, 12. Miners is right around 16. And then Luke Wattenberg is also right around 16. And as a unit, they are number 1 in pass blocking efficiency. And it's tough, and you just got to be a little bit better. And, the accuracy issues, placing that, it was a dig route to Franklin, where I do think that one of the defenders tipped it a little bit, got a little bit of a hand on it, not helping, the placement of it. But it's still one of those things where, first of all, and this is an issue with Sean Payton, you don't want Troy Franklin or Marvin Mims running dig routes. You don't. When you run dig routes, you are putting your wide receiver in danger of a safety coming downhill and laying them out. And we talked about it a little bit last night. You got to start getting Pat Bryant involved. Pat Bryant is a dig guy. That was one of his best routes in college. He does a good job, even after the catch, of taking that little sidestep. And it's a loss of a yard when he does that, but he turns that into 3, 4, 5 yards more, just because he creates a different angle for himself. And that was a very underrated aspect of Pat Bryant coming out. He's not being used as much. He's only played 30 snaps, give or take. And so far this season, and every time he's been out there, he's done well. It's not like he's been an issue for them. It's not like with RJ Harvey, where RJ Harvey, when he's touched the ball, it's been an issue for him outside of one run or 2 runs. And then a couple passing plays, he's been pretty good. It's not like that where he's being an issue for the offense. Get Pat Bryant involved more. And it goes to the usage of some of these players, especially with Evan Ingram hurt, who is being used as that, we talk about it a lot. Lil Jordan Humphrey last year, there's a specific role for him. That's kind of how they're using Evan Ingram this year. If he's hurt or if he's out, That's what you want Pat Bryant for, not Trent Sherfield, who's getting the bulk of those reps. Trent Sherfield is a very limited player, and he's not a guy who works well on the dig routes. So you don't want him doing that. So get Pat Bryant involved a little bit more. It doesn't help that Bo Nix has some issues working the intermediate area of the field, in the middle of the field. But you give him a guy that he could try, that can be a reliable guy for him. Your two best players on dig routes, Cortland Sutton and Pat Bryant. Use them as such. You got rid of Devon Vele because the clog that you had at wide receiver. Well, Devon Vele was your dig route guy, and now you're trying to use Marvin Mims on dig routes, Troy Franklin on dig routes, anybody on big dig routes except for Pat Bryant. So get him involved a little bit more. That is one way that you can help out this offense and help out Bo Nix. And because by using Bryant in that aspect, you're not risking Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin getting clobbered. You're not risking them. You're able to use them, I guess, in a way that is more fitting of their skill set. So you got to watch a little bit. And Sean Payton has been trying to pass to set up the run, which that is the modern mindset. You pass to set up the run, you ease the defense off the line of scrimmage, you pull them back a little bit through the passing game and help open up lanes in the running game. Payton's got to go back to being a little bit more old school. You got to run to set up the pass here, run to set up play action. You got to keep that threat of run game going again, help take that pressure off of Bo Nix. So there's a lot on this offense that Sean Payton needs to do, and there's a lot that Bo Nix needs to do. And all of it is to right the ship, to correct the course, to get this offense going. Remember last year, the first 2 weeks of the season were awful, and with the offense, they couldn't figure it out. And then the lights clicked in week 3. Well, week 3's past this year. It's not clicking yet. This is a great opportunity for them to get that to click, get everything to click and get it going, because this Bengals defense, it's not very good.
No, and just to piggyback off of that for Bryant, love this comment, Proud Zennial. I think Eric is saying Bryant has BDE, big dig energy. Had to emphasize that part. Yeah, you need to get Bryant involved, and I'm sick of this weird thing with Sean Payton and rookies, and I know Vance Joseph to an extent as well does the same thing, but Mims is looking more and more, and I hate to say it, in my opinion, looking more closer to a gadget guy. He had that touchdown last week, but beyond that, like, we're not really seeing him work in the offense. Oh, maybe if Bo Nix hits that deep pass, I'm not saying that as much, but you do need to get Brian involved. The dude is a baller. He proved so, and this is why you drafted him. He was specifically for this role, to be that bigger body receiver that can go over the middle on these dig routes and work that intermediate game, and you're just not seeing him utilized. He has the effort in the run game as well. We saw that on the long J.K. Dobbins run. He went down all the way to the field with him. And it's like, man, you need those kind of guys out with that heart and that effort. And he clearly shows that. Something that you don't always see from a Marvin Mims, from a Troy Franklin. So I'd love to see him out there more. Obviously, with R.J. Harvey, it's a little different because Sean Payton, running backs, he says it's a committee. But Dobbins is clearly the lead guy as of right now. And the run game is not getting much love in general. So limited touches even more so. And you just got to hope that this offense can get going, because we know that Bo Nix can play better than he has. But going back to that Mims deep shot, it's like, man, multiple deep shots, obviously. But the Mims one in particular, he got a clean pocket. And listen, we talked about arm strength a lot through the draft process and whatnot. And like, it was never about how far he could get it. It was more about velocity. But you see him on that Mims deep shot, he's stepping up into Luke Wattenberg for what? The pocket's clean. Just make the throw. And I think he's a little worried about how far he can get that ball. And clearly he got a little further than he needed to. But that's something that's in his mind. And the arm strength is definitely still a bit of a concern there. And you see that on a lot of his deep shots, actually, from last year. I remember his deep completion in the Steelers game to Josh Reynolds. He really had to step up for that one too, and it still fell a bit short.
Yeah, and again, when we talk about arm strength, it's not about how far you can throw it. It's the velocity. It's making those tight window throws. And on that, Bo Nix has the lowest percentage of tight window throws this season. Just to kind of highlight what our talking point here. But before we jump over to the defense, we have Boot Boy 90 coming in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Boot Boy. We appreciate that. He says Bo seems antsy and it costs him. The lack of run game hurts him, in my opinion. First and second down runs, losing yards, leaving Bo 3rd and 12 plus penalties. He feels forced to make plays by his internal clock. Yeah, this is kind of what I was getting at about easing that pressure from on him, both internally within his own mindset and his own, the mental aspect for it, and as well as Sean Payton. You got to figure out a way to get the run game going. You got to figure out how to stay ahead of schedule. That's the term it is. You don't want to be in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. You want 3, 4, 5 yards on first down consistently. And you typically want that from your run game. But if you can't, well, that's where some of those extensions of the run game come into play. Some quick hitters, again, we were talking about getting Pat Bryant involved. Get Pat Bryant on a quick screen. Something that he can do well. Getting those, quick throws over the middle to set yourself up ahead of schedule, and then don't shoot yourself in the foot and turn what is a positive play into a negative play with a penalty. And some of the penalties on the offense are inexcusable. They are pre-snap penalties. That is 100% a stupid penalty, especially if it's a rookie. All right, you can kind of give him a little bit of leeway. But against the Chargers, there was one on Adam Troutman. There was one on Garrett Bowles, both of which are unacceptable with how long they've been in the NFL. Once you hit year 2, you shouldn't be getting called for pre-snap penalties, period. So there are things that they can do, and that's kind of what we're getting at. But yeah, this is where it goes into the fact that it's not all Bo Nix. When you're setting yourself up in behind schedule on second down, where again it's 2nd and 8 to 2nd and 12 or 2nd and 15 because of a penalty, or even farther, then it carries over to 3rd down. Well, Denver had a couple pretty big plays on 3rd down against the Chargers. They just weren't enough for the first down because they were in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 25, I believe was one of them that they actually had a pretty nice gain on, and they were still 8 yards short or something like that of getting the first down. You can't have it. It's where everybody's got to step up. You got to clean up the penalties. You got to stop shooting yourself in the foot. It's that simple. But thank you so much, Boot Boy, for the $10 super chat. And we have Coach Chris coming in with a $20 super chat saying, this week we turned the page. I'm thinking it just takes this team a few weeks to get going. I'm crossing my fingers. Hell, it took 14 years for me to lose my virginity. Let's go, Broncos. Love you all. Oh,
wow.
Chris, you might get me in trouble for that. Not pre-screening the super chat, because there are certain things we're not allowed to say on these. But thank you, Coach Chris, for that. And that's one of the things, and I agree with you. It does seem like this team does take a while to get going. And even going back and watching the Saints and looking at what the Saints did there with Sean Payton, it was kind of the same. But on that note, you have Sean Payton, who's consistently talked about getting off to a fast start. You don't want when you want to get off to a fast start, you got to get off to a fast start, and it kind of limits the excuses for it. It's something that they got to figure out, especially this season, because coming into the season, it looks like that from I think it's week 5 to week 12, their bye week is when a lot of people figure their toughest part of the schedule was. Now it doesn't look as tough because some teams aren't looking as good, and the Colts are obviously looking better, and so on and so forth. Maybe it was week 4 to week 12, but you wanted to get off to that fast start to get things rolling and get things going. So it's both things. It can be that they want to, that it might take them some time, but it's something that they got to figure out for future reference, or for the future, because it might be a situation where they have an absolute gauntlet of games in mid-season or late season, and the very easy part of the schedule on paper is at the start of the season. So you want to get off that hot start and win those games to start, and then get going. So a little bit of both. So thank you, Chris, for jumping in for that. Do you have anything to add about this, Dylan?
Yeah, man. I mean, this game can't be close, because you're going to have questions if this game is even remotely close. You have to, I'm not saying completely blow them out, but you got to win by a couple scores and have this be a convincing win. Yeah. And you keep it close, you're inviting more questions, like, why couldn't you put this team away? They only have Trey Hendrickson on defense, and and the only stars on offense right now after Burrow's out, you got the 2 wide receivers, but who's getting them the ball? Jake Browning. So no, they absolutely have to put this game away and be undeniable in their turnaround this week.
Yeah, and it is tough, but we are going to flip over. Oh, we have Troy Brewer coming in with the $5 super chat. Should we worry about last year's pattern? We beat teams with losing records and lose to teams with winning records unless they play backups, referencing that Chiefs game to close out the season. Yes. And probably not in the way a lot of people think is, and it's because that Nick's kind of said this before. It's pretty easy to go from bad to good, but it is damn near impossible to go from good to great. And one of the ways that you can do that is by beating those teams with winning records, by closing out games in particular and not losing on last second field goals. The fact that they're losing on last second field goals is a positive sign in the fact that they're keeping things close, especially against the Colts game. With how bad that defense was, the fact that, they were able to turn it into the red zone and not keep it from being a blowout. That game should have been a blowout for the Colts. And the fact that the defense was able to step up in the red zone to keep that from happening, that is a positive sign for it. It's positive that they were still managing, despite their lack of success between the 20s. They were at least stepping up, keeping out of the end zone, and keeping the game close for the Broncos. So when you lose like that, it is tough. It is heartbreaking, but it is a situation where you can take the positives from it and look ahead, but it's got to be that you're not taking positives from a loss. It's where you're looking back and it's a win, and now you are beating the good teams and you are cementing yourself as a great team. And that's where a lot of expectations were this season, is that they would be able to take that step. That's where my expectations were for the season, and they weren't. And so far they haven't met it. Obviously, things can still change, as Coach Chris alluded to, is maybe they just get off to a slow start. But it's time for it to happen. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Teams with losing records, that's beating who you're supposed to beat. It's now going from making that hard and damn near impossible step to go from good to great by beating those teams with a winning record.
Exactly. And, it's all well and good now. They are close, and that's a good sign. But at some point, you're going to have to win those close games against those big opponents, because the fan base is going to get antsy about it. Ownership will eventually get antsy about it. You can't just be almost there for multiple years. So they're going to have to get over that hump sooner rather than later, whether that's fair or not.
Yeah, and we have Coach Chris saying Bo needs to have that one game to rebound. He needs to slow down. He even looked tentative on his runs. Yeah, that's a issue. Is Bo Nix as a runner is one, he's not as aggressive as he used to be. Still has some runs where he is. He's not seeing things the same. Like, there's just a lot of issues with Bo Nix now that need to be corrected, and they are with things that he did well last year. He needs that one good game, I think, to help settle him down and get his mind right, his head right, and just take the pressure off him and show and get him back to having fun playing football, because it really doesn't look like he is at the moment. But that's just opinion from outside appearance. I can't say for sure. We have Bugmeister coming in saying, good morning, big dogs. Just wanted to jump in and say good morning. Hope you guys are all doing good. Hope the move is going good for Nick. Yeah, Nick just texted me a picture of his butt from the top of the mountains again. So no, he's it's been stressful, as he's told me, but he's enjoying it. He's happy. He was very happy on Sunday, as he didn't have to look for a way to find the game as he was in market, and he made sure to rub that in my face. But that's all the more reason. But yeah, we're all doing good. Thank you, Bugmeister, for coming in and joining us. And Nick hopefully should be back next week, with everything getting figured out and the move kind of on the last legs of the move. And then we have Jay Bruce saying offense needs to get in a rhythm that will help Bo get comfortable, thus helping him sit in the pocket and set his feet. Yes and no. I think a lot of it is that he's just got to, I touched on this last night. I think the issues in the pocket are he just doesn't have that awareness that you want, that sixth sense, so to speak, of pressure on him. And he just feels a little bit of pressure, and then he just rushes through the rest of it. You got to figure out a way to calm him down in that aspect. And I don't think getting in a rhythm will help that. It's just more so of getting it, just working on him in the film room of like, hey, trust in your offensive linemen that they will get your back. You're still going to get hit every now and then. It's still going to happen, but this is an offensive line that has been doing a lot better than what a lot of fans think. But getting over to the defensive side of the ball, first things first, I got to go back and get this. We have Logan saying, cut Singleton. I stinking wish. You just can't. His contract guaranteed during veteran contracts guaranteed at the first start of the season. So all of the money that he was set to be due, all basically 5.5 million of it is now guaranteed. If you cut him, whatever's not, it all goes against dead cap space. You can't cut him, but you can bench him. And that is something that needs to happen. You have an extra day, and you typically don't want to make significant changes outside of a bye week or a mini bye week where you're coming off a Thursday night game, so you get those extra few days. But you have to. Like you've got to be looking at it. He's a captain and he's playing terribly. It's not going to happen because he's a captain. He's an expensive captain. He's going to stay as a starter, and he's going to, by the end of the season, he's probably going to make me be bald because from pulling my head out, because he Naruto runs into freaking ball carriers and shoulder checks them, thinking it's going to tackle him, and only knocks him in out of another person's tackle to go farther. And it's so frustrating to watch him. But at this point, you got to be looking at Justin Strnad and Dre Greenlaw as your starters when Greenlaw comes off of injured reserve. And until then, either sign Lavelle Bailey to the active roster and put him in as the starter in that Alex Singleton role, or move Justin Strnad, who is better fit for the Alex Singleton role, and insert Karine Reed, who you kept for special teams and coverage ability, both of which are significantly better than Lavelle Bailey. Whatever the case, you got to figure out something there, because that is the weakest link right now on the defense, and it's not even close. I know a lot of people want to highlight Riley Moss. Riley Moss has been a lot better than what a lot of fans think. Obviously, some penalties stink. There's some really bad moments for it, but man, dude was targeted 11 times by the Chargers and he allowed 4 catches. He had a huge pass breakup. He had another big play for it where he disrupted the catch process. Like, he had some big plays, but they are getting overlooked because of the couple bad penalties and, a big touchdown that he allowed, even though his coverage couldn't have been any better and the defense couldn't have done it barely could have done any better. So it is a rough go of it with the defense. And it's one of those things where, and I talked about this last night, and I talked about it with one of the reasons why I do my grading system, Dylan, is that I love to highlight individual play, because you can have 10 players do the right thing, do the perfect thing on a rep, but that one player who doesn't could be the difference maker between a good play and a bad play. And that's the case with Riley Moss. He can do a lot of things right on a single play, but just one minor error can lead to a bad thing. Or, throughout the whole game, one bad play. And a lot of fans linger on that one bad play. Moss hasn't been a liability. He has been one of the better defensive backs for the Broncos. I would say probably third behind Hufanga and McMillan. Surtain has not been good, and I've seen some people blame the foot injury for it. He was struggling against the Colts before the foot injury that he had, and if it's bad enough to where it's impacting his play this much, well, then rest him. You're being cautious with Dre Greenlaw. Be cautious with Patrick Surtain as well. And I would say with being cautious with Patrick Surtain, at least you have Zadeh Barron ready to step in, whereas at linebacker, you have no one ready to step in, really. I mean, Justin Snod's played admirably, but now you're dealing with Alex Singleton being terrible. So there's a lot of issues with this defense that need to be figured out, and it starts with figuring out something with Alex Singleton before he drives me mad and makes me pull out all my hair.
Absolutely, and I'm going to bring up this super chat from Chris because it kind of adds on to the Singleton conversation. He says, we all need to abide and support our beloved Broncos. Singleton is who we thought he was. He balls out one game and not for the next 3. Given that, he should have a huge game on Monday night. Bring on Bailey, #DB for life. I disagree. I don't think Singleton has played a great game for the Broncos. That's just me personally. I mean, I've never really been on the Alex Singleton train. I know people see the number of tackles he gets. It's like, okay, where are those tackles occurring? Obviously, he's a liability in coverage. Most linebackers are. Let's be real. It's not like they're always going to be perfect in coverage, but Singleton more so. But what really irks me is you come out and you talk to, I believe it was DNVR who had the quote, and when asked about this game being a must-win, he said, but is it a must-win? Are we going to die in the locker room if we lose? Yeah, maybe you're killing the chances of you getting to another NFL team or being a starter potentially, even though, like you mentioned, he's probably still going to be the starter. That is quitter behavior. That's bum behavior. That's loser behavior. And to have the captain patch on you for that, that's a disgrace and a spit in the face of this team. I mean, what are we even talking about, man? It's a divisional game that can put you at first in the AFC West while the Chiefs are meandering in mediocrity. And you'd say something like that. That's ridiculous. And I don't want this man on the team. But the reality is he's going to be here to stay for at least this season. And I hope he's gone after, because he has been an absolute liability, even tackling, which is supposed to be his strength this season.
Yeah, it has been rough, and I am beyond ready to be done with him. I got a lot of flack in August, I think is when it was, last month, when I gave the Broncos linebacker position like a D or a D- or something like that. Singleton was a big reason why. The injury with Dre Greenlaw was a big reason why. The questions about the depth, a big reason why. And we have Justin Strnad, who stepped up and his play improved from last year, but you still have Greenlaw, who's going to miss now 8 games. You have Singleton, who's playing terribly. This linebacker unit is showing exactly what I thought they would. And that is not a great as well. Coach Chris also coming in with Barron as a liability right now as well. PS2 suspect, something must be wrong with him. The defense play calling is trash. Blitz up the middle, and it leaves the running back on the outside. I'm going to push back a little bit on Barron being a liability right now. He hasn't been terrible when he's been on the field. He's had some rookie moments, but he hasn't been where, oh, he's on the field, we're going to pick on him. We're going to make him, we're going to punish him for being on the field like they are doing with Alex Singleton. Granted, Alex Singleton playing 100% of the snaps, so it's a little bit easier to overlook or to catch those times that's not. But Barron, he's only been on the field for, what was it, like it was like 53 snaps. I think it's like 56 for Harvey, 53 for Barron, and like 32 for Bryant for the first 3 picks. I can't remember. I was looking at it last night. And Barron has a fumble recovery, which was a big play. He had another pretty solid, couple big plays in coverage, disrupting the catch. And then he has a lot of couple catches, but I wouldn't say he's been a liability. The rest, yeah, PS2 has been suspect. The foot injury is probably being part of the problem, but I mean, he was struggling against the Colts before that. Defensive play calling has been trash. I don't think it's been trash, but it hasn't been good. It's been a lot of questionable usage, using Hufanga consistently as your single high safety and Brandon Jones closer to line of scrimmage, when one of the things that they wanted to do and bring in another player was because PJ Locke couldn't be that single high safety. They had to play him, or couldn't be that down low safety like they wanted. And they brought Brandon Jones to be that high safety. And they're not using him that way, even though they have a guy in Hufanga who could actually be that down safety. But they're not using him that way. They're flipping it. So I have issues with that. I have issues with some of the way that they're, some of the usage of players. And then blitz up the middle. He's the running back on the outside. Yeah, Vance Josephs loves his mug-a blitzes, and that is a rough look. And the simulated pressures aren't being super effective. I do have to say, the big reason why we're seeing so many blitzes up the middle is probably because how much trust he has in Cooper, Ellis, and Benito on the edge to get the pressure and hold up things there. But it's not great. There are still a lot of issues. And then asking, where was Atkins in the last game? He played a lot. He played, I believe, 18 snaps out of like 50 something, like 52 or 53. Lucas Kroll was the highest played tight end, just over 20. I know that because of my grading system. You have to play 20 snaps to get graded, and Atkins and Trotman both weren't graded. I think they're at 18 and 19 snaps. But he played well. A lot of his snaps came as a fullback. Adam Prentice didn't see the field as much. He only played a handful of snaps. Atkins was good. There were a couple plays where it's very clearly that he was still working his way back from being hurt, but he was good. He had a couple big blocks. I think there was one failed block by my account, and he had a couple really solid blocks and then a couple great blocks. So he had a good one, but he's just a guy that's pretty easy to miss. And Conga saying, watching the Ravens versus Lions makes it abundantly obvious how both these teams are on different tiers than the Broncos. Abso-freaking-lutely. And not even the Broncos, but how the Colts and the Chargers are also on a different tier from the Ravens and the Lions, and even the Bills. Although I think the Bills are a little bit more suspect because their defense is very questionable. But it raises the concerns if the Broncos do get into the playoffs. Obviously, you want a good matchup for them. The Ravens and the Bills don't seem like the matchup that you want. Maybe you want, if they're a wild card team, maybe you want that rematch against the Chargers if they win the division. Maybe you want it against the Texans or the Colts if they win the division, which doesn't look like the Texans will. Looks like it's between the Colts and the Jaguars, so we're only 3 weeks in, because the Texans offense looks like absolute garbage. So there's a lot on it, but yeah, the Broncos are not in that elite tier yet. Maybe the Broncos can get the Titans in the playoffs, JK. Maybe, there's a lot of games left. There's 14 games left. Maybe the Titans go 14-3. It could happen. But man, the Titans are such a bad team. But anyways, also good morning, Quentin, as well. Thank you for coming in. Anything else with the defense before we get out of here that you want to highlight? There is one more that I want to highlight as well.
Yeah, just to touch back on the cornerback situation. PS2, he does seem like maybe that ankle's affecting him a bit. Not playing to the level that he did last year. Obviously, you don't expect him to be Defensive Player of the Year every year, but you do expect him to be the Broncos' best corner out there, game in and game out. So it's a little rough to see. Yeah, Roddy Moss stuff's a little overblown. It's just because of the volume that he gets thrown at, and that's going to happen when you play opposite someone like PS2. And in terms of Barron, I know there's a lot of people upset with that pick still. PS2 probably wouldn't have played much his rookie season had Ronald Darby not gotten hurt. So be a little patient. And if some people are so upset with Moss and want him benched, that's why you got Barron. You got him to be that depth guy who could eventually step up. So it's not a waste of a pick. We got to stop that nonsense. It's just silly.
Yeah, and with Moss, last thing on that is he is still like top 12 in force tight window throws, meaning that he's got tight coverage and good coverage on it. He just isn't doing well enough at the catch point to keep the target from happening. I saw somebody last night mention this. That could be attributed to his lack of arm length as well. And just be an issue there. But my final point here is you got to get your rookies on the field. And I'm not meaning Barron. I'm not meaning Harvey. I'm not meaning Bryant. I'm meaning Savion Jones and Q Robinson. They've been inactive through 3 games. Clearly, Jordan Jackson ain't it. And I think that there are ways that you can use Robinson, and especially on special teams, which has been questionable at best in the coverage units. You want to get them on the field. You want to get them active. I think it is time that I don't know how you get Robinson active. I don't know what exchange you make there, but put Jordan Jackson inactive, activate Savion Jones, get him on the field, because this is a guy that you are looking at to replace John Franken Myers after this season if you don't extend him. And if you can't see it, well, then you're forced to either go buy another defensive lineman, draft an early defensive lineman, and hope that they're able to get it right away, or roll with a complete unknown in Savion Jones. You need to get Savion Jones out there early. You kind of got to throw him to the wolves. He's struggling against the run. That was a big issue with his in preseason. That was a big issue with his college tape. But you got to throw him to the wolves. You got to see if he can improve. You got to see if he can do it. And at the very least, it can add a little bit more oomph to his strength, which there's never anything wrong with adding to his strength in terms of pass rush. And then Tillman, you can use him off ball a little bit as that A-gap blitzer, which is something that they want to do. It's one of the reasons why they're really hoping Drew Sanders was able to take a step up before he got hurt, was because he can bring that A-gap blitzing ability. Singleton ain't it. Cernat ain't it. You can find a way to activate Robinson for special teams and then situational play on defense, figure out what you have in him and start getting him, developed by getting on the field. There's only so much development you can do before actually getting play time. But guys, I think that's going to do it for us this morning, as we have hit the hour mark. And it is been a fun morning. Kevin asking, do you guys think Sean Payton should give Webb a chance to call plays? Yes. I think it varies based on the opponent. I would love to see him get an opportunity against the Bengals because, man, one of the only time that the Broncos offense looked great in the preseason was that final preseason game when Webb was calling the plays. And then Michael Kill with a $5 super chat to close out the source saying, great show today, Eric and Dylan on the Broncos for breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Thank you, Michael, for the multiple super chats and the gifted memberships. We appreciate you so much. We appreciate every single one of you. Michael already shouted you out. Denver Luke. We have Boot Boy coming in. Coach Chris coming in with a pair of them. And Troy Boer. Man, we appreciate you guys all. If you guys donated stars, we appreciate you guys as well. And we just appreciate you guys going for coming in and just joining in the super chat and joining in the chat. We appreciate the conversation. We appreciate that. But we do have to get out of here. We are limited to only an hour, unfortunately, because, man, I don't know about you, Dylan. I could sit here and I could talk about the Broncos for hours. And it's a good thing that we have our group chat where we can actually do that. So it is unfortunate, but it is. And thankfully, you guys will get me for 4 hours this week. You got me Monday morning, you got me Tuesday night, you got me this morning, and I'll be back on Friday night. It leads to a very cluttered week for me, but I enjoy it because I enjoy spending my time with you guys. So 5 hours long. Hey, you're basically getting me for 5 hours this week. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for us. Before we get out of here, we do have some things that we have to say. One, obviously, super chats and stars on Facebook. Those are two ways that can help us out on the show. But another way you guys can help out is, as you see scrolling across the bottom of your screen, subscribe, like, and share. Those are ways to help us against the algorithms, especially on YouTube and Facebook, that are ever changing, ever being frustrating on our end. That makes it harder to reach out to not just more people, but people who are actually subscribed to the show and following the show, or subscribed to the Mile High Huddle Facebook group. Things like that. It makes it hard. And word of mouth does so much in spreading us around. And you guys can also, if you're listening now or after the fact, you guys can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, not swag. I hate saying swag every single month. You can follow us on Instagram at Mile High Huddle with an underscore between Mile and High and Huddle. And if you guys are able to do so, especially with the holidays coming up, it is time to put up your Christmas tree, as we are in the burr months, I will not give up that joke. But you guys can go to mhhmerch.com to get your gear on, not swag. Again, I hate saying swag. You can get hats like the one I have, Broncos for breakfast hats and mugs, all that stuff like that. I got to get around to getting myself a Broncos for breakfast hat. It feels weird having Dove Valley Deep Divers on for this one. You guys can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/MileHighHuddlePod or facebook.com/MileHighHuddle, where you guys can get access to all of our written content that we put out weekly, as well as being part of the wonderful Facebook community that we have built up over the years. And you can also follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Mile High Huddle, at BFB_pod, I believe is what it is. I still haven't learned it and got it memorized yet. And get access to all of our written content, as well as reaching us on Twitter, specifically at Erick Trickel for myself, at Dylan Von Arx, MHH for him. And you guys can always reach out to us on Twitter and keep the conversation going there if you want. And you guys can follow the MHH Pod Twitter account as well. We appreciate you guys. We are one of the many Mile High Huddle podcasts that come to you every single night of the week, as well as twice in the mornings. We appreciate every single one of you. We thank you guys so much for coming in and joining us. Ernie Mays with a last second go Broncos country only. Go Ernie Mays only. But before we get out of here, Dylan, any final words?
Yep, I'll keep it short and sweet. Bo Nix, be better. Alex Singleton, do not take any more interviews.
And stop with the Naruto running.
Yes, exactly.
Man, I actually had to do a demonstration last night, and I'll do it again. Naruto running is where you run with your arms back like this. And he's doing that and hitting them with the shoulder and not wrapping up. So frustrating. And still want that Falcon? It's only about $900, like on Lego.com. Unfortunately, Nick gets mad at me when I don't have my camera set at a certain angle, so you can't see the Venator that's up here as well. But not the biggest set anymore for Star Wars. That is now a Death Star. That is $1,000 that I definitely want. And yeah, because there's something really calming with me about putting Legos together. And the Falcon was a pain in the butt. But it does add to my, gotta figure it out, my Falcon collection here, where I have 4 other Falcons. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. It's the hump day, so hopefully everything gets better, because the week is going downhill, but I hope your week goes uphill, right? Gets better, climb. Whatever. You guys get what I'm trying to say. It's early for me. I'm working on about 4 hours of sleep, as I am almost every single day. insomnia stinks, especially when you don't have the medication for it. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for joining so much. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. I will see you guys on Friday night. As Nick always says, choose kindness, compassion, and of course, go Broncos.